kind of switch around. And I'm going to start my webcam so you all can see me. There we go. All right. Okay, now all of you should be able to see me. Hello. Good morning or good afternoon. So as I was saying earlier, our program is all around the theme, What Floats Your Boat? And this is part of actually a festival through CILC. They have content providers like us, museums, other organizations, and we're all doing programs around this theme this week. So this is our version of it here at the National World War II Museum. To give you a quick rundown, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about three main things today. First off, we have Kaylee and Josh from PT 305. They're going to be talking about PT boats and the restoration process here at the museum. They're historians, but they also work on the boat regularly. So they're our awesome special guests. Next, we're going to talk about Higgins boats. And we actually have a veteran for you all to meet. His name is Johnny DiFatta. In the second half of the program, he's going to tell you about driving Higgins boats. And then to close it all out, my coworker Rob Wallace, he's the STEM education coordinator here. He will be talking about pontoons. And we'll give you guys your own pontoon design challenge. See if you can actually make something float in your own classroom. As an FYI, everybody, I'm going to be moving out of the screen in just 1 second. But below me, you see this Q&A pod. I will be watching this Q&A area throughout the rest of the program. And if you have any questions for Kaylee or Josh or Mr. Johnny, type them in there, and we'll be answering them in different parts of the program. And also, if you have any tech issues and you want to type in and let me know, feel free, and I'll try to help you as best as I possibly can off camera. You may occasionally hear my voice off camera as we're kind of moving everybody around since we have 5 of us in here right now. But that'll be me, and you know, I'll be helping to direct this whole program and moderate it. So with that, and now at 12:03, hopefully not taking up any more time, I'm going to shift over and I'm going to welcome in Kaylee and Josh from PT 305. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. Do you both fit?
There we are.
There we go.
Good morning, afternoon, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Kaylee.
I'm Josh. We're with the PT 305 Restoration. There we go, a little bit more centered. PT 305 Restoration here at the National World War II Museum today. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about PT boat history, starting with why PT boats existed. This is actually a photograph. I'm doing my little other way. This is actually a photograph of the PT boat that we're restoring right now. It's a specially designed craft used during the Second World War, made out of wood, and they fought in almost every major naval theater of action. Andrew Higgins here in New Orleans built 199 of them, and we're lucky enough to have one of them left that we can work on. And the whole purpose of these boats is actually to fire a torpedo. So this is a torpedo. It's called a Mark 13 aerial torpedo. These boats were meant to be small and fast boats that would go out at nighttime. They would sneak up on enemy ships, whether it's a big combatant ship or a merchant ship, to sink enemy supplies. They'd sneak within about 500 yards, drop this torpedo in the water, and the torpedo would go strike the ship, sink it, and then our boat would speed away. I've got a little video of a PT boat firing a torpedo in a test. Kind of show y'all.
There we go.
For these boats,
show y'all a little bit what it did.
And built lightweight torpedo tubes. These scenes are official.
And that's a 2,000-pound torpedo shooting out of a tube. So what they would do is they would come up at nighttime. They'd sneak up on a ship and they would point their torpedo towards that ship, push the button, and it would go jetting out of the tube there. Now, a little bit later in the war, boats developed the ability to put it in a side launching rack, as you see on our little photo here. So instead of shooting it out of the tube, the guys would just kind of drop it over the side. But all that being said, the entire point of these boats was to have that torpedo there so that they could go and shoot it. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the construction of these boats. How do they build them? The first thing you have to do when you're building something is you got to get blueprints. So this is a quick little shot of blueprints. A couple hundred different prints go into building one whole boat. Every single little piece has got a blueprint and a picture with all the measurements. It tells you how to build it, what to do. these blueprints have been important to us in our rebuilding process. But this is where it all starts. So at the Higgins factory, they look at, and I believe it's in some of our catchwords, we've got hull and keel and frames. If you look at this photograph, the frames are all the little vertical lines that go all the way down the boat, and all the ribs and the keel, as you'll see in all your definitions, is the main board that goes down the middle, and that's where they start and build the boats up from there. So these boats were made out of wood because if you studied in some of your classes, metals were strategic materials, which means they needed to save some of the metals for tanks and bigger ships and other important things. And so they needed a torpedo boat that was lightweight, easy to build, and didn't use strategic materials, so they made them out of wood. So amazingly enough, a lot of these boats were built by hand. So you can see our guy here, he's chiseling a little block of a cut into some of the ribs on the bottom of the boat. Another larger piece will fit in there. And actually, if you look at the two holes above his head that makes it look like he has Mickey Mouse ears, that's actually where the propeller shaft goes through the boat. So he's kind of cutting the rest of the hole to let that shaft come through. I'll go to the next picture. It's not just cars that are made on assembly lines. You can make really big things on assembly lines. This is a picture of the Higgins City Park plant. So at the very far end of that picture, the whole boat starts with one piece of wood, and by the time it gets to this end of the picture, they've been putting on piece by piece by piece as the boats are coming down the line, and you end up with an entire 78-foot PT boat, all made out of wood. The next one, here's another guy working with some hand tools. Higgins Industries was very good about employing. They employed almost 1 in 5 people in New Orleans over the course of the Second World War, which is roughly 20,000 people. And a lot of them worked on the Higgins boat line. And here you see a guy working his hand tools and putting the pieces together. And I think at this point we're going to kind of go, trying to conserve our time, we're going to have Kaylee talk about the boat's history in the war.
So the boat that we're talking about is PT-305. She was also known as the Sudden Jerk. And that's a story we heard that she backed into a dock really hard once, so they gave her a good nickname for that. And once she was built here in New Orleans, she went all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean. And there in the Mediterranean, she was fighting German coastal shipping. So they would go out late at night in the dark, and they would look for German barges or boats and try to sink them with torpedoes or their guns. The average crew on a PT boat was 2 officers and about 12 to 14 enlisted men. You had torpedo men, you had gunners, you had a ship's cook. We even had a baker as a specialist on our boat. You had what were called motor machinist mate, and they ran the engines, the 3 engines in the boat. And these guys would work, they would leave in the evening, and they would go out all night patrolling the coast in Italy and France, looking for Germans. All right, and you see a picture here. You can see the 50 cal guns that were on the boat and one of the torpedoes. Now, like I said, our boat was in the Mediterranean, and while she was there, she sank 3 German boats. And she was there from April of 1944 until the end of the war. She came back in May of 1945. She operated in what was called a squadron, and that was 12 boats that operated together, and they would go out 2 or 3 together at night. Now, once she came back from the war, she had a very long history. So they were sent back to New York, and they were going to go to the Pacific. Thankfully, our good fighting men got the job done, and she didn't have to go over there. That's one of the reasons we still have the PT-305. So after the war, she was sold for just $10. This boat that cost over $100,000 to make during the war was sold for only $10. And since 1948, when she was sold, she's had many different careers. She's been a tour boat, a fishing boat, and we have a picture of her here as an oyster boat. And she would go out and where they could put baby oysters out and grow oysters out in the Chesapeake. And this is what she was doing until 2005, when a group from Texas found out that, hey, this oyster boat is actually a boat with a great World War II history. And they were able to rescue her and take her down to Texas. Well, unfortunately, they weren't able to finish working on her, and they were going to restore her to this beautiful PT boat from the war again. So the World War II Museum found out about it, and the World War II Museum got the boat in 2007. And that's when people like Josh started with the beginning, restoring the boat. And so we're going to tell you a little bit about the boat's restoration. So you saw the pictures before and how pretty she was and everything on top, and this is what she looked like when we got her. It's kind of sad. The boat was 78 feet long originally, but so that people could use it after the war, they had to cut 13 feet off so that she was only 65 feet long. So one of the things we had to do was put that extra 13 feet back on, and then we've had to take her down to all the bits and pieces. We've had to take out all the metal. It starts to rust and it starts to expand. So this is a really good picture to show you how we've opened up the boat, and you can see the old planking and you can see the new pieces and how we've combined the new pieces and the old pieces. And we take old pieces and we can use them somewhere else. Josh actually has here, this is a new piece of the boat's decking. So you can get a little idea of the construction. So it's all wood construction like Josh said. So it's, turn around, we'll see how thin it is. So you got, what's the thickness?
It's an inch thick.
So just imagine being out in the Mediterranean at night looking for Germans in a boat that's only an inch thick. There's no metal on it to protect you, nothing but between the water but you and this inch of wood. So the way the boat's constructed is you've got the two pieces that are put together with canvas to make it watertight. And one of the things we've had to do is find out all these original techniques that they used so that we could copy these techniques and do it as it was before. So you can see all of these here. These are copper rivets. So yes, I did a little Rosie the Riveter job, and I got to help rivet all these in. There are 39,000 that we did with just an air gun and a lot of Patience, yes. Sometimes being crammed, you can see in the picture, as deep as the boat gets in that V, we had to climb all the way down there and rivet all the way down. And this right here, this piece is where one of the ribs would have gone. So the ribs get screwed in, and then we rivet in between that, and it makes it nice and watertight. So that's been a big challenge. Originally, when they built the boats, it took them a month to put the boat together at Higgins Industries. It took us a year just to re-rivet it. So that's been a very big challenge for us. But part of the fun, Chrissie, can you play? We've got a special time-lapse video that...
yeah, this is really cool.
It's a good up-close shot of me to begin it.
Yeah. All right, let's check it out.
So one of the things that's important to us is putting back in things that were originally in the boat. And when our boat was built, did it have portholes, Josh?
Did not have portholes.
So you want to tell them about how we got the portholes in our boat?
Yes, we a crew member of ours,
James Narrison,
he was in France during the war in 1944, and he saw a bunch of wrecked French yachts that had been bombed out in the harbor that they were staying in that day. And so he saw some portholes, and he went up to his captain and he said, you know, I'd love to have a window in my side of the boat. And so captain said that's fine as long as you black it out so that no light gets out while you're patrolling at night. So he installed the portholes that you're seeing them install in this time-lapse video, and the captain apparently liked them so much the captain asked for another set for himself too. So what's really special about these is that for everything we've had to rebuild, we've got these portholes that James Narrison took from a French boat in 1944, and he placed them inside the boat. And that was his own little personal touch that makes our boat very unique. And we're very honored and we're very lucky to have objects like this that represent our boat's specific history and story and things that our crew members did for our boat. And so we went through the process, we took them off, we cleaned them, we fixed the hull, and then here's the guys reinstalling them. And then me sitting in the video, just kind of watching.
So one of the challenges we have in the restoration is trying to understand how the boat was built. And as historians, we are able to do research and look at the National Archives and find original documents and get recollections from crew members. And this allows us to do things like put the portholes back in and put them in and understand why they were there in the first place. Because when we got the boat, everyone said, why are there portholes? This must have been after the war. These boats aren't supposed to have portholes. But once we got the story from James Narrison, we understood, okay, this is something the crew did. And it's a special thing that as we restore the boat, it makes it true to the boat's origins. And it's also these special touches that the crew members put in that make the boat unique and make it special.
Yeah, because ultimately the most important thing isn't just to have a piece of equipment, but it's a piece of equipment that has a story. These guys were young, they had to go to war, this is the service they chose, they fought, they lived on this boat. So it's very important to do it right, do it the way it was, and to share their story, because we do not want to forget their story at all.
So we've got a few minutes. We're going to tell you a little bit about Higgins Industries. And you see here, this is actually one of the plants where they built PT boats. And we saw we've got some people here from New Orleans. So you might have some family members who worked at Higgins. As Josh said, he employed at least 20,000 people at a time in New Orleans during the war. And he had an impact on a lot of people here. So Higgins not only built PT boats, but he built landing craft of different kinds. You'll hear more about that later. And at one point, 92% of the boats in the United States Navy in World War II were built by Higgins Industries. And that was quite an accomplishment. Mm-hmm. And this picture you see here is a celebration for the 10,000th boat that Higgins built for the Navy during the war. Yep, I'll show you some other pictures that we got.
Well, I'm going to we'll leave that to the expert on the LCDP here in a minute.
We've got him in a second. Actually, we've got some great questions.
Yeah,
you guys want to take some questions in the time that we have left. This is Chrissie, the disembodied voice off camera. But we've got a couple good ones from PSTA 6th graders. They want to know, are any crew members from PT 305 still alive today?
Yes, there are. We're very fortunate that Mr. James Narrison is still alive, and you can see him in the picture here.
I think I have a pointer.
I was going to say,
he's
hard to do this.
Right there.
So
yeah, that's.
The pointer will work. Sometimes it doesn't work. Let's see if we can do it. There he is, right there.
Yep, that's Mr. Narrison. So he's from California. And he was one of the original crew members. And original crew members to a boat are called plank owners. And this photo here is our plank owner crew. And Mr. Narrison is one of those, and he's still out in California. And then Joseph Brannon, he came onto the boat in late 44, I believe. Yeah. And he lives out in Colorado, as we understand. And the museum has actually interviewed both of them and two other crew members who have since passed on, unfortunately. Benedict Bronder, who lived in Minnesota, and he was 99 last year. He was a little bit older for our PT boaters.
The boat, this isn't the only crew that was on this boat. There was, how many men?
About 46.
Yeah, about 46 men, not all at once.
No.
That would be a little crowded. But they did shifts, so this crew served for about a year. And then in late 1944, another crew came on, and then there was a couple other guys. So of the 47 odd men that were on the boat, we are lucky enough that 2 are still alive to this day. A few others passed before they may have been able to see the boat, but unfortunately they've since passed. But we're also looking for other men that are still alive from the squadron and from her 11 other sister boats. So the search will continue. We've got.
Is it Mr. Pincher's class?
Yes.
Were you guys talking about watertight doors? And
we are now.
Well, now let's talk about
it. That's a great question.
That is a very good question. When we're talking about the wood here, the 2 layers of planks, in between it is canvas and then a bedding compound called dolphinite. It looks like green peanut butter. It's real nasty and really sticky and everything.
It never dries.
But what you do is you take 2 pieces of wood, you put canvas, cloth, and then dolphinite, and then you smash them together, and it fills in the gaps between all the boards to make a watertight seal. So when you say it's a wood boat, you put dolphinite in it, you caulk around it, so you make this big watertight thing. Then the boat does have watertight doors, so you've got different compartments, and then you use doors to get between. Hopefully that answers the question.
And the watertight doors are actually metal doors.
Yeah,
sealed.
the watertight doors are aluminum. They've got rubber gaskets, and you can close them. We actually have action reports of boats taking damage, and those watertight doors saved the boat, kept it from leaking. So they're very useful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I have one more. This is maybe a little selfish. This is my question. Last question before we move on to Higgins boats. What's been the hardest thing about restoring that boat? What's been the most difficult thing for you guys? If you can even name one.
I would say just getting parts and getting information.
Yeah.
We have a lot of original drawings, but not all of them. So we have to fill in the gaps with photographs or other documentation, and then finding the parts.
You can't go to a boat store. There isn't a PT
No
boat
Home Depot.
section.
No trips to
Yeah.
Home Depot.
And so the crew changed little things while they had the boat, and then just a lot of the parts aren't made anymore. So what we have to look for are called usually legacy companies. You know, maybe someone that built a piece back then, they got bought out by someone else and it's under a different name. Or you would be amazed what's on eBay, and you would be amazed what people walk in the door and say, I'll have one of those in my attic. Well, you know, I'll bring it down.
Yeah.
So, but we're still looking for parts if y'all are holding on to anything.
There you go.
PT boat, just
We're
Put
looking
it
for
on
a
the question
compass
thing.
this week.
yes, compass this week.
All right, compass is the next challenge. All right, well, thank you guys so much. I know we're doing a whirlwind sort of webinar today, but if you all are interested about more information about PT305, at the end I've included a document that Kaylee and Josh put together that could answer almost every single question about that boat if you want to know more. And I think this is just the first of many webinar series that we'll do with them. So everybody give a virtual round of applause for Kaylee and Josh.
Thank you.
All right, thanks guys.
Nice
And
talking to y'all.
Next we're going to shuffle in, and I'm going to come back into the screen, and I'm going to welcome Mr. Johnny DiFatta. All right, let me scooch on in here. Mr. Johnny, how about you come this way? All right, let's see here. And let's get you on camera here. Let's see if we're both on camera. All right. And while we're kind of getting situated, I'm going to play a little video of the next thing that we're going to be talking about, the Higgins boat, or the LCVP. All right, there we go. Now we're both on camera here. There we go. And you guys can see an LCVP loading in right now troops. And Mr. Johnny, during World War II, he drove one of these boats. And these are actually, I think this is some video from Europe, but he actually drove boats out in the Pacific. So, you know, we want to know kind of all about that, you know, and what your experience was like. Can you tell us a little bit about driving one of these boats? What was it like?
Well, it wasn't an easy riding boat, and it wasn't an easy driving boat, because you had one engine in here, and you have to watch the bow.
Show that on the screen if you want. There we go. There.
You have to watch that bow doesn't pull on you. You have to keep it straight. Now, he built 20,000 of these
Yeah, I
during
can
the
show some
war,
pictures here. Let's get to them. There we go.
and it's all wood except the rim. It's 7-ply, which you just saw
Yeah.
the PT boat
Can you
wood.
hold that up for everybody? Yeah, there's the wood. Oop.
That's it. That's how thick it is. He built 20,000 for the war. And then he built, well, it holds 36 fully packed troops.
We can see there's some on that
Yeah.
image there.
And this is when it hits the island.
Yeah, there we go. Can you tell us why does the boat have a ramp? Why would a boat like
Well,
that need a ramp? What was its purpose?
Actually, I'll tell you why. This is the first boats he built with a bow on it. We have one here at the warehouse. The reason that boat hit the beach in Guadalcanal in 42, the back was still in deep water. Troops were jumping off the sides. Well, that didn't work too good, so Mr. Higgins told his engineer, Graham, cut 14 feet off that boat and put a ramp on it. Since 1942, every boat built here had a ramp on it. 20,000 of them. We actually built 16,000 here, 13,000. And we gave our plans to other boat builders because we couldn't put out any more than 18 a day, and they wanted more. So we gave our plans to another boat builder, Chris Craft, and 2 other ones. They built 7,000. We built 13,000. 20,000 in LCVPs were built in New Orleans. Now, he built 10,000 of these. These are all steel. They're 50 feet long, carried 60 fully packed troops, a Sherman tank.
Did you drive one of these?
I ran one of these. I was on this boat when we invaded Treasury Island in the Pacific.
Actually, I've got a map of the Pacific.
1943.
Let's see here. So Treasury Island somewhere. Let's see.
I don't think you're going to
it
find
on
it
there.
It's close to Bougainville.
Somewhere
Actually,
down there, I think.
we were a decoy for Bougainville. And we didn't know that until after the war. We were 16 miles south of Bougainville. Bougainville is the closest island to the United States. And the Japanese had a big air base on it. They were getting ready to bomb the United States. So we took it back in 43. And I got a picture of it. It's so small, it's not on,
screen.
it's so small, it's not even on a big map.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little bitty island right there. 16 miles south of Bougainville.
Small island.
Actually, the reason we got this map, the admiral had bombed Pearl Harbor. This was his flight from Guadalcanal. He was going to Bougainville. When he got that far, we broke the code. We knew where he was. 7 planes went after him. 3 of them shot him down. After the war, they went back to check. They found his plane. He still had the seatbelt on him. So we knew it was him. Now.
Got another picture?
No, what is this?
Oh, which one? This one? Or
The big one.
the big one? Here's the big one. This one.
Now, I was on this boat here as a crew member. I was sitting back here with a 50 caliber machine gun at 17.
It's the age of some of you guys.
And
out there, right?
today they still use this gun, a 50 caliber. It was in World War I, II, all the way till today. That's how good this 50 caliber machine gun is.
Tell us a little bit about you signing up for the Navy. I know he was 17, so tell us some. I know we probably have some 17-year-olds out here, right? How'd that happen?
Well, I was 17 in July, and I told my mother I want to get in the Navy. So I talked her into it because my brother was in the Army, and I get 18, they're going to draft me. They'll put you where they want. So I wanted to get in the Navy, so she signed for me. As soon as they signed for me, I went to the custom house, swore me in. I was in San Diego in July, August. September, I was in Guadalcanal. October the 19th, I was invading Treasury Island. And I didn't come back until 20.
Do you want to show that picture of,
This
it's got
is-
a picture of when he came back from the war, so
This-
we can check that out.
This is September 1945, San Francisco. I was 20 years old there. The war was over.
You're in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Right here. Right there. So you started off, your jobs changed, right, on different boats. So
Well,
you were on one boat and then
actually,
another boat, right?
After we leave a ship, we don't go back to the ship. We stay on the island because we're unloading ships all day long. We have to put CBs on the island. You know what the CB is?
I don't know, tell 'em.
Construction battalion, men that have all kind of, they build a lot of stuff, contractors. Well, we put them on the island, so we have to put their equipment on the island. Then they build us a tent, so we can get in the tent. And then they build an airstrip. Every island we hit, we put an airstrip on it. Our planes land, we fuel them up, send them back to fight. And I went as far as the Admiralty Islands. I was 2 degrees off the equator on Manus, and I stayed there till September 1945. That's when they dropped the second bomb, August the 9th. And after that, the Japanese quit. And then I was on my way home.
That's right.
Got out in 1946. Got married when I was in 47. My daughter was born. So I got my life back together. All my teenage years, most of them was overseas, out of the country.
That's right. Can you guys imagine that? You know, being
But-
that far away from home, right?
Yeah.
And near the equator, right? So.
Oh, right up. Of course, I'm from New Orleans, so it didn't bother me the heat as much as the boys up north. This is what it looks like on the island.
Let's see if we can. Got any big pictures or? Oh yeah, there's some good ones here. Maybe we can zoom in a little bit. Looks pretty tropical.
Yeah. And look, we did have coconuts. There's a coconut
Oh
tree.
yeah, okay, there we go.
We had coconut, pineapple, we had bananas, all kind of fruit.
So, did you enjoy your time in the service? Did you enjoy driving a Higgins boat?
Yeah, it was nice. Once you got used to it, I was a deckhand. I was a seaman first, but I qualified after 3.5 years to run the boats. Didn't get the rate, but I got it in my records.
So, what was the most difficult about driving a boat, or being on, or even being a seaman on one of those boats? Was there anything that was really tough about it? Or
No,
you knew what you were doing?
Well, once you got used to it, and you ran it one time, you didn't have a problem anymore.
Yeah.
It was that easy.
Well, tell us just a little bit about, this museum. We started off, as the National D-Day Museum, and that Higgins boat is so, so important to our story. Can you tell the students, why is this boat so important to World War II?
Because they were built right here in New Orleans. That's the reason the museum is here. When this museum opened in 2000, I had 147 of our members and their wives to come here because of that boat. I said we have to, every year we go to different states. So I had to host it here in New Orleans to get this boat, get all the men around this boat. And once they got around there, a couple of tears were falling. First time they saw the boat that long.
And these boats were used in every major amphibious landing during World War II to
Every
bring
one.
troops to shore, right?
Right.
Including some of the stuff you did, of course.
Well, like I said, we were fighting the war since 1941. These boats made every invasion. And then Normandy in 44. That's why General Eisenhower said Mr. Higgins won the war with these boats.
That's right. Did win the war with these
He
boats.
did.
Yeah, for sure.
That was President Eisenhower said that.
Can you tell us a little bit about, now we're kind of going into present day, tell us a bit about when you started volunteering here, how often you're here, and
Well, I'm here
your experience with some visitors.
3 years, going on 4 years now. I just got my $1,000 hour.
$1,000 would be nice too.
Yeah, we don't get paid. No, 1,000 hours pin. I think it was the blue one. And I don't know how many I got now since then. That's about a year ago.
Yeah.
So I've been about 3 years now.
Every single Thursday, right?
Every Thursday I come
You'll
here
find them here if you guys ever get down here.
to 4 o'clock. I stay here till 4 o'clock.
All right, so you got to get here before 4. That's right.
Yeah, make sure you come on Thursday now. It's the only day I'm here.
Well, we've got some questions. I told you people were typing in some questions
Oh, okay.
for you, so let's check some of them out. So, Mrs. Guthrie's class was asking, were you always on the same boat? And if not, how many boats then were you? Do you remember how many boats you were on during the course of the war? Is that?
Well, let's see. We were on one going across. Then we went from Guadalcanal, that was 2. Then from Treasure Island to the Allentown, that was 4. Then I went to, coming back home, it took us 4.5 days to get home. That was another one, that's 5. So it was 5 boats, ships, 5 ships I was on.
Did you have any kind of affection for, was there a boat that you were on or that you drove that you felt like, once you were apart from it, you kind of missed it, or
Well, I'll
that?
tell you a little thing. Coming back, we were on transport. A lot of troops on there. They asked for any volunteers. I said, volunteers for what? For the galley. Whoa, I put my hand up. So
Can you tell me what the galley is?
The galley is where you eat.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. And with a ship full of troops, you've been eating a long time before you get up there. So working in the galley, I was first class. I ate first time. And all I had was a mop. And if you missed the garbage can, I mopped it. All the way home. And I want to take my last, in the Navy, I was mess cooking for the waves.
Yeah, there you go.
For 2 months. I had to serve my last time 6 months in Norfolk, Virginia, the 8th Navy District. And that's when I got out.
All right, now next from Mr. Pincher's class, we have a question. What was the most frightening experience you had? Did you sustain any injuries? What kept you going being so far away from New Orleans and from home?
I was fortunate. I never got hurt or anything. I don't know what I did, but I didn't get hurt, so I'm okay.
Yeah. Were you ever scared?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, at 17, you didn't know what you were getting into. But when we dug a foxhole and we had to get in that foxhole and then bombs were falling, yeah, you were afraid. I have a 10% disability in hearing because of that bomb. It came so close. And Fred, my buddy, was here about 2 months ago. He has he's got hearing aids. And he wrote a letter where we were in that same foxhole when that bomb fell that close. So, yes, you do get afraid then. You start praying then.
Were you homesick? Did you have a girlfriend back at home or anything like that?
My wife.
Your wife.
I knew when she was 9 years old. She lived right next door to my grandmother, and I used to see her all the time. And when I got back, I was 20. I got married at 21. She was 18.
So were you guys writing back and forth and all that kind of stuff?
She wrote,
family
yes.
too?
Yes.
Yeah.
My mother, she couldn't write. She couldn't, no education. So my wife, I should write to her, and she'd go to my mother's house.
Oh, and ask what your mom wanted to tell you. Oh, that's so nice.
So that's how that happened. Of course, mail wasn't that close either. We never
took
got.
A while to get the
took
mail,
a while
right?
to get it.
Now you were talking about food, so now Miss Guthrie's class also is wondering what kind of food do you eat on a boat or a ship? Is that any good?
Our rations was Spam. You know what Spam is? We had it in a can and we had a key to open it. Today they just pull a tab.
So yeah, canned ham. Is that what you got every day? I mean.
Yeah, we had that. We had chocolate and stuff like that, but mostly Spam. Until we put the Seabees on the island, and they built us a tent, and then they built us a galley, which is where we ate. So that was okay then.
Well, it wasn't so bad, right?
No.
Yeah.
We had eggs then. Whew.
Yeah. Do you have
Fresh eggs.
Do you have any friends that you still keep in touch with that were either on the boats with you or a part of your crew or anything like that?
Well, I just talked to one of them 2 months ago. I mean, he was here in the museum. And I talked to another one. He's in Sarasota, Texas. I keep in touch with him. So there's 3 of us. We talk to one another. And we're all 90 years old. One's 92.
Yeah. So you guys all entered pretty early in the war.
Yeah. And Fred came here, and he went to the boat, and he says, man, I packed more of these boats, patched them up. That's what his job was. Because we used to bang them up. We hit the ship, hit the beach. He'd have to take all that up, redo it.
So that was another important, job. There are a lot of different jobs,
right.
Taking care of those boats that you were running too, right?
Right. And when I got to the Admiralty Islands, they took me off the boats and put me in a galley with a ship fitter maintaining the galley. That was the big base there.
So you kind of had to know a little bit of everything, right?
Right. So I'm a qualified ship fitter, 3rd class, and coxswain for the boats.
There you go.
It's all in my record.
Oh, nice.
But discharge papers.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing these. Here's another good one. from another Miss Guthrie's class. You guys have a lot of great questions. Maybe last one for you, if you don't mind. Where did you sleep on the big boat or big ships?
On the ships?
Yeah.
Out on a rope or anything. Coming back?
Or anytime, coming back or going there.
Going there, we had a
You have
bunk.
bunks. You have some bunks. Yeah.
Yeah, going there, we did have a bunk on a Liberty ship. But coming back, I had
Was because so many people?
too many on there, yeah. Troop transport, nothing but Army and Navy and Marines.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you had to kind of
whatever you
sleep
can find
wherever
a
you
place,
can lie, right? So, just sleep standing up. Huh?
But we were coming home, so it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
We just keep thinking about getting to that base.
Well, Mr. Johnny, really appreciate you sharing your story with students about, being able to drive a boat and, running and
stay on it.
On the galley and what you ate on it, where you slept, all that good stuff.
And fortunate I didn't get hurt, so I thank God for that.
Well, I know they all really appreciate your perspective. They can't, we can't see them, which he really wanted to see all of you guys. But, please give him a virtual round of applause. So, and thank Mr. Johnny for spending some time here today. And actually, if you don't mind, what we're going to do is I'm going to swap you out. Do you want to swap spots with Rob? Sure. And we're going to kind of close out the program today.
All right.
And tell them about what they're going to do. All about the pontoon. So we're going to transition into another area. Everybody, welcome Rob.
Hi.
Wait, you can wait. You guys maybe saw him earlier if you've watched a lot of our webinars. We were talking about the atomic bomb last year. And so we are actually going to go and transition into another area, and we're going to tell you all about your design challenge. And Rob, first let's talk about what they're going to do and what a pontoon is.
Right. So when most of the time you're seeing the slides now, but in between the slides you've been seeing this big map between us. And so in World War II we made all this stuff, and we had 14 million military guys to get to war. And as you'll notice from looking at that big map, there's two big oceans on either side of us. So getting guys onto a boat isn't that hard, and getting them over there isn't that hard, but getting them on shore was hard. And so that's what the Higgins boats did, was they got the guys on shore. About a year before the successful D-Day invasion of Normandy, they tried to take a port in France called Dieppe, and it didn't work out because they tried to go into this fortified port and dock the ships, and it just didn't work out. So that's why the Higgins boats were so important. But then how do you get all these supplies ashore? So when we invaded Normandy, we made this portable harbor that we set out there, and they were called mulberries, and you'll read about it in the handout Chrissy's going to send you. And they made these piers. They drove these hollow piers into the sand and then stuck sections on them. They sank old boats around to slow the tide and the waves down, and then they made this temporary harbor that stretched a mile out into the ocean.
I think we maybe have some. Where's that picture?
Yeah, so that's part of a mulberry, yeah. So they stretched a whole mile out into the ocean, and they just offloaded things onto it, tanks, trucks, and just sent them ashore. And it lasted about a week, and then one of the biggest storms ever to hit the English Channel came through. So D-Day was on June 4th, and about the 12th to the 19th, this big storm came through and just destroyed the whole thing. So the British designed these mulberries, and the Americans came up with a really kind of different solution with pontoons. And a pontoon is a big floating thing. So it's a big empty thing. You may have seen, like, if you go and boating on a lake or a river, we use pontoon boats, and they just have big floats and a platform across the top of them. And so we made these big pontoons. And if you go back a couple slides, you'll see a pontoon boat right there. That's called a rhino. And the Americans made these, and it had some big floats underneath with a heavy platform on top. And they could put motors on it and send it as a ferry, or they would just connect a whole series of them together to make a big dock or a harbor or a bridge. They made that bridge across the rivers in Germany using pontoons. So your design challenge is to build your own pontoon.
There we
go back one and I can show you how far this thing stretched.
Oh yeah, there it is. I was looking for
So
that.
look how far that thing stretched. Long ways, and there were some that were longer than that. All right, so you're going to make your own pontoon boat. And so there's a list in the handout that Chrissie's going to send you.
Yeah, and actually, you see the teacher guide. If you look in that files pod, there's that PT 305 FAQ I was telling you about earlier, and the teacher guide with this challenge in it. So,
You're going to make it, and it's just ordinary, regular, everyday materials. There's some cardboard, some tape, some strings, some washers, some drink bottles, and you're going to try to see if you can make something that'll hold a vehicle, okay, and keep it from capsizing. Now, one of the tricks with a pontoon, one of the challenges to that design is that you're floating on top of the water, so if you get up too high, they like to flip over. And so you can weigh it down. So that's what they do sometimes, and that's why we let you have some washers and string, because you might want to hang a weight down into the water below the pontoon boat to lower its center of gravity. But you can make the whole thing, we're going to test to see how much weight can your pontoon boat make. So you're going to compete against other classrooms to see how much weight you can hold, and also how long it can stay up in the water.
So you can see the details on there. What we want you guys to do is take a picture of your best design and also your best trial. So, how much it held, or how long your pontoon floated before it sunk, or maybe didn't sink at all, which would be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
And so you're going to record all of that data and what we've provided, and then you're going to take a picture of it. You're going to snap it and actually email it over to me, and the email is included in there too, teachers. And then what Rob and I are going to do, we're going to go through, we're going to cull through all the results, and then we're going to pick the winners, and the winners will be featured. Tell them a little bit about your blog.
So I have a blog every 2 weeks called SciTech Tuesday. It's on the museum site. And we just talk about stuff that's going on around anniversaries in World War II or something else. This week, I wrote about the Nobel Prize for Medicine that was announced on Monday. Went to some folks who studied parasites and diseases to fight parasites like malaria or elephantitis. And it's kind of interesting because we've been fighting that battle since World War II. I mean, we still haven't come up with a great cure for malaria. And so I wrote about that. So it may be around an anniversary, or it may be around something that's happening in the world that connects to the technology of World War II.
So what we're going to do is we're going to, as I said, look at all your results and then publish the winners in that blog sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then the winning classes will be sent a prize. We're actually going to send you guys some classroom posters to hang up, propaganda posters, and some from our robotics competition.
Yes.
So you can decorate your classroom if you win our design challenge. So all the details are in there. We actually, you know what? We did really well on time. And so we actually have a few more minutes, and I know that...
Can I talk about a question I'm surprised nobody asked?
Yeah, go for it.
Why did they make these PT boats out of wood instead of metal?
Well,
is there anybody else?
Or should we bring in
our
PT boat experts one more time? So yeah, Mr. Johnny talked about that too, about these boats being made out of mahogany, whether it's a Higgins boat or a PT boat. So actually, Kaylee and Josh, you guys want to close it out and talk about, I'm going to scooch over one more time and talk about, why boats are made out of...
We'll change chairs.
Yeah. We're doing a little musical chairs here. So yeah, why are boats made out of metal and wood, not metal?
Well, the Higgins boats in particular, Josh kind of mentioned that metal was an important strategic material during the war. So one of the things you can see when you visit the museum here is that families would collect all their scraps, and even extra razor blades or lipstick tubes could be used to make bullets or anything that we needed to use. And so steel was too heavy. And so they tried to make these boats. They actually did make the first boats out of aluminum. but they couldn't go as fast as the Navy wanted. So
They fell apart when they went that fast. They weren't strong enough.
No, they were fine. That's a really strategic material. Aluminum, you use aluminum for airplanes.
yeah,
So it's just better to save it for a P-51 than a boat.
Right.
and all the thousands of bombers that were needed to drop bombs on over Germany and Japan. So one of the reasons that Mahogany was used in Higgins boats is because Andrew Higgins actually bought a huge shipment of mahogany from the Philippines before the Japanese invaded. So it was a material that he had plenty of to use. And then down here in Louisiana, unfortunately, we did cut down on a lot of our trees, but a lot of the cypress and the spruce and the fir was a readily available material that wasn't needed for other areas of the war. So you can use it to build almost 600 PT boats, and you're not taking away from vital materials needed to make bombers and fighters and Liberty ships. Now, Higgins did make some metal boats. There's one called an LCM, so it's a landing craft mechanized, and it is a steel boat. They needed it to be sturdier so that they could put tanks and larger land equipment on that, and then he did build Liberty ships, but the metal went to things like that were vital, and wood was just a surplus material that also made a very light boat. You want to tell them the weight of our boat?
Our boat weighed around 53 tons, so maybe take 53 cars in the parking lot, and that's about as much as the boat weighed, which is pretty heavy. A lot of the weight was in those torpedoes. The picture of that torpedo we showed you earlier, that thing weighs 2,000 pounds. That thing weighs as much as a pickup truck. So, it's amazing that all this really big, heavy stuff fits on this wooden boat who's got, inch-thick walls around it.
And even with the wood, they had to find ways to make it lighter. And one of the things that Higgins did is, in some of the big pieces on the side in the boat that are called bulkheads, he cut holes, and it would stay structurally intact, but you could take out a section of wood and make it even lighter. The Navy originally told him, hey, your boats aren't fast enough. We want these boats to go at least 40 knots. And knot is how you measure speed on the water. So 40 knots is about 45 miles an hour. It's not the same as miles per hour. And so that's one of the things Higgins did, was trying to figure out how he could continue to build these boats where they were sturdy, but they were light and they could go much faster.
Another funny thing that we actually just found out last week is that in the galley in the kitchen, they had glass plates on one of the first boats, and the Navy was telling Higgins, we need your boats to be a little bit faster. And so Kaylee here found out that they took all the glass plates out and they put plastic plates in to make it lighter. So it's every little pound counts.
We thought they took the glass out because it would break in the heavy seas, but it's because it added a lot of weight.
Just a little bit more speed.
So those are the things our historic research tells us about restoring the boat, so we can do that accurately. And that's a fun thing as a historian, to get to work on something like this, because you don't always realize those opportunities to help restore a boat. And we haven't mentioned, it is going to be on the water. It's going to be on the lake here in New Orleans.
How much longer do you guys
Within the
think?
next year,
Yeah.
she should be back on Lake Pontchartrain, where they originally tested these boats. So it's a really cool coming home story for the 305, that she was built here. She served in the Mediterranean. She was all along the East Coast for decades after the war. Now she's back here where she was built. So she's come home, and she's going to be on the lake again where she first got into the water, and you'll be able to come down and see the boat and see what we've done with it. It's going to be really special.
Watch her speed by.
Yeah, and it's going to be loud, so bring your
It's
earplugs.
going to be very loud. We've already tested the engines, and they're pretty noisy. So
So I have two questions for you guys in like the 5 minutes we have left. So first question, kind of relating to, you guys are talking about both being historians and restorers. And this is a great example, everybody who's watching, about careers in history.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what got you interested, how did you end up where you did, and what got you interested in history, and how did you get to this point in your life right now, being able to research this boat and help rebuild it?
Well,
I've been doing this for a long time. I was 15 years old when I first came to the museum. They were restoring a landing craft, and I saw the crew working on them, and I said, oh, I want to do that. So I went and did that. and I was going to school at the same time. I was in high school then. And so just kind of I followed that path while I was going to high school and then into college, and then I got my master's degree in history at the same time I was working on the restoration projects here. And so it's a dual interest. School gave me the ability to learn how to research and do all this academic work and write articles and really think about it in a different aspect. And then working on the boat has been valuable experience because I've been able to learn how to work with my hands and tools and make an actual connection with something instead of just reading about it. And so I like to put both of those together, and now you're here talking to me.
And I met Josh in grad school, and we were all introducing ourselves and saying things we did. And he said, well, I volunteer restoring this boat at the World War II Museum, so I have to be a part of that. So I've been working on it for almost 5 years now. And like Josh said, it's a great way to take the history and the facts and actually apply it and get hands-on. And we've had 1 or 2 occasions where we've had PT boat veterans that have come to see the boat and to see their reaction when they step on deck and what it means to them. That's why we give up our Saturdays. Every Saturday, that's what we do. Mm-hmm. Bright and early, we're at the museum to work on it. And after work, we're thinking about things. And we've researched at the National Archives, so we use deck logs and all these things that normally people would take that research and just write, and we take this research and apply it to restore. And it's areas in history that everybody says, oh, you study history, you're going to be a teacher, and that's a wonderful thing, but there's so many things that you can do with history, mm-hmm. and that people don't always realize. So restoring is another thing that you can do with history.
Yeah. All right, and kind of on that note of your job and working with your hands and being very involved in the rebuilding of PT 305. So these students are going to build a pontoon. Do you have any advice for them to have their pontoon float the longest or hold the most? Any strategies?
Measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
That's your one rule of thumb. There you go.
Well, water outside the boat is usually the best thing to have. It's
yeah.
You got a fun challenge ahead of you, that's for sure.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your, for hanging out with us for this past hour and for your advice to see, whose boat or pontoon can float the longest here. We're just so glad to have you here today, and I'm actually going to kind of close it all out. So say bye, everybody. Say bye to Kaylee and Josh. And so I want to tell you all, before we close and off you go to your pontoon design challenge, our next webinar. So this is also probably for you teachers too listening out there. We are doing a webinar commemorating the 74th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, and it's going to be super cool because we are connecting with the World War II Valor and the Pacific National Monument. Those are the folks that take care of the USS Arizona. So we'll be talking with an educator there and even a witness to the attack. And we're also going to show you all a little bit of the behind the scenes of our newest gallery opening here at the museum called Road to Tokyo. So it should be another kind of whirlwind video conference a webinar like this one,